Hello, dear students, and welcome to the online classes again. Students, I hope that all of you are fine and utilizing your time for studies and anyhow in some productive work. Students, this is the time when it is very difficult to establish communication between us. So, these videos or these online medium are only the option for us to continue your studies. Please understand the situation and watch the videos. This is the utmost priority this time that you all watch the videos properly and go through those videos. By that only, there will be continuity in your studies. Students, please focus on your studies by these videos. Now, today I am going to start your general knowledge classes and I hope that all of you are having your books. By these videos, we are going to provide you the explanation of the chapters that are given in your book and the extra informations related to it. So basically, today through this video, I am going to give you or explain you the first unit of your book, and the first unit of your book is related to our India. In this unit there are 5 chapters. We will focus on each and every chapter and we will fill the exercises also with the explanation. Let's have a look on the content. First chapter is Indian Armed Forces. The second one is Movements and Revolution. The third is Famous Forts. Fourth, World Heritage Sites. And fifth is Famous Entrepreneurs. Now, let's have a look on the first chapter. So students, your first chapter is Indian Armed Forces. All of you are already aware about the Indian Armed Forces. So the Indian Armed Forces are the military forces of India, and we are knowing that the work of these military forces is to protect our country by the foreign attack or by any external attack. These military forces basically works on the borders of a country. The Indian Armed Forces consist of 3 professional uniformed services, that is the Indian Army, the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force. So students, not only these 3, the Indian Army, the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force, they are helped by, there are some supportive organizations, or we can say that there are some supportive troops also that help our Indian Armed Forces to protect our country. They are supported by the Indian Coast Guard and paramilitary organizations and like Central Reserve Police Force, that we say CRPF, and Border Security Forces, beside various inter-service commands and institutions also that work for these organizations or that work for the Indian Armed Forces. So basically, these forces are supported by the Indian Coast Guard and paramilitary organizations. So students, where is the headquarters of the Indian Armed Forces? The headquarters of the Indian Armed Forces is in New Delhi. Now, who is the head of these armed forces, or who is having the supreme authority? So, the supreme commander of the Indian Armed Forces is the President of India. So, currently the President of India is Sri Ram Nath Kovind, and he is only the responsibility of the armies or the Indian Armed Forces. The President of India is the Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces. Now, the Indian Armed Forces are under the management of the Ministry of Defence of the Government of India. It is the subject of center and it is under the administration, or who manages the Indian Armed Forces. It is having the defense. Our defense ministry is responsible for the management of Indian Armed Forces in India, and the current defense minister of India is Sri Rajnath Singh. Now students, Indian Armed Forces is the second largest military forces in the world. Our armed forces is the second largest in the whole world, means the number of soldiers we are having, or the number of army officers, soldiers and forces we are having, that is the second largest. First is China and our country is at the second. Now, Indian Armed Forces is the world's second largest military force. So these are the basics things that is important for you to know, that where is the headquarter of the Indian Armed Forces, that is in New Delhi. Who is having the supreme commander of the Indian Armed Forces, that is President of India currently, Shri Ramnath Kovind. As the president changes, the supreme commander of the Indian Armed Forces also change. Now next is all the three troops like Indian Navy or Air Force or Indian Army, the supreme commander is the president only. Our defense minister, so who is having the responsibility of managing or to manage the Indian Armed Force, that is Defense Ministry. And right now currently Shri Rajnath Singh is the defense minister. Now have a look here, the flag of Indian Armed Forces. As you can see, this is the flag of Indian Armed Force, and at the right hand side it is the emblem of Indian Armed Forces. Both are same and the shape of the emblem is different. The sign that is marked there is almost same. On the emblem it is written Satyamev Jayate. Now one more thing, equivalent ranks of Indian military. Indian military, as we are knowing that three professionals are there: Indian Navy, Indian Army and Indian Air Forces. So students, I want to tell you this, that our army, or we can say that the Indian Armed Forces are having three level officers. The first one is commissioned officer, that are known as Group A officers. Next is junior commissioned officers, that is Group B officers. And there are some other ranks also that are considered as non-commissioned officers. So here are the ranks provided to you of the commissioned officers. The highest rank in the Indian Navy is Admiral of the Fleet. In Indian Army, Field Marshal is equivalent to Admiral of the Fleet. As you can see here, wait a minute, as you can see here, Admiral of Fleet, Field Marshal and Marshal of the Indian Air Force, all three are equivalent to each other, but they work for different troops. Like that only, Admiral, General and Air Chief Marshal, then Vice Admiral, Lieutenant General, Air Marshal, then Rear Admiral, Major General, Air Vice Marshal. So these are the ranks that are equivalent, but their names are different in different troops. Now let's have a look on the exercises that are given in your book. So basically what you have to do is, you have to do, first one is multiple choice. You have to choose the correct option from here. First is, where is the headquarters of the Indian Armed Forces located? As I have explained you earlier, the headquarters of the Indian Armed Forces is in New Delhi. Which is India's first indigenously developed nuclear powered submarine? That is INS Arihant. Indigenously means that is totally developed in India. That is only known as indigenously, the thing that is developed in India only. So the first indigenously developed nuclear powered submarine is INS Arihant. Third is, when is the Armed Forces Flag Day celebrated in India? It is December 7. The Armed Forces Flag Day is celebrated on December 7. Fourth one is, who was the first recipient of the Param Veer Chakra? There are various honors that are being given to the military officers or the soldiers. That is only the Param Veer Chakra is among them. And who was the first recipient of the Param Veer Chakra? That is Major Somnath Sharma. Fifth one is, which rank in the army is equivalent to the naval rank of captain? As I have explained you that their name is different. So the question is, which rank in the army is equivalent to the naval rank of captain? As you can see, the naval rank of captain is here. This is. sorry, the naval rank of captain is here, and this is colonel. So who is equivalent to captain? Colonel. So the answer will be colonel. Which rank in the army is equivalent to the naval rank of captain? Naval means navy. So it is colonel. Sixth one is, what is the name of the commando unit of the Indian Air Force? That is Garud. The name of the commando unit of the Indian Air Force is Garud. Now, the seventh one is, who is the Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces? As I have explained you, the President is the Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces. What are the official colors of the Indian Air Force? So the official colors of the Indian Air Force is navy blue, sky blue and saffron. So the correct answer is B, navy blue, sky blue and saffron. Ninth is, which of the following organizations has Sarvatra Sarvottam Suraksha as its slogan? So the answer will be BSF, that is Border Security Force. The Border Security Force has the slogan Sarvatra Sarvottam Suraksha. Now 10th is, who was the first person to be appointed as the Field Marshal, that is the highest attainable rank in the Indian Army? That is Kodandera M. Cariappa. That is C is the correct answer, Kodandera M. Cariappa. Now let's have a look on more to know. Siachen Glacier, maybe you have listened the name of Siachen Glacier, that is the coldest point or the place in India. The world's highest battlefield also it is, world highest battlefield, located approximately 5400 meters above mean sea level, is controlled by the Indian Army. This Siachen Glacier, that is having the temperature like minus 50 degrees Celsius, here our Indian Army used to control this area, and it is the world's highest battlefield. Now we are having the second chapter, that is movements and revolution. So students, as we are already learning in history that how Britishers established their control over India, and the period from where the Britishers established their control over India till the freedom of struggle, or we can say that till the independence that India attained. So the period between that was the period of many movements and revolutions at that time. So, the several times in the Indian history, thousands of people have come together. When more and more people or large number of people come together to protest against any injustice or to support a cause and have started a movement. A number of revolutions in India marked the beginning of new era in fields like agriculture and petroleum. Number of revolution took place in India to for the development in a particular field, like green revolution took place for the development in the agricultural field. All these type of revolution we have already listened somewhere, but now we will see. So read the description given below and identify the names of famous movements and revolutions in India. First one is popularly known as the Sepoy Mutiny or the Great Rebellion. This movement began against the rule of the British East India Company. It was a major uprising inspired by a strong urge to gain independence. Rani Lakshmi Bai, Tatya Tope, Kunwar Singh and Nana Sahib were a few important leaders of this movement. So the answer will be, it was the revolt of 1857, is also known as the First War of Independence. This was the first war of independence when Indians stand against the injustice done by the Britishers. This was the very first time Indians revolted against the Britishers. So it is also known as Sepoy Mutiny or the Great Rebellion. The famous, or we can say that the major leaders, the famous leaders of this revolt was Rani Lakshmi Bai, Tatya Tope, Kunwar Singh and Nana Sahib. We will learn about this revolt in history also. Now, the next is second one. This movement was started to oppose the British decision of partitioning Bengal. So, students, in 1907, they Britishers partitioned Bengal or divide Bengal into East Bengal and West Bengal accord on the basis of religion. So it saw many Indians boycotting foreign goods and British products, burning imported clothes, and reviving the production of Indian goods. That was the time when Indian people started boycotting. That means they started refusing to use foreign goods and British goods. Like you can see presently what is going on around you, that is now India and China are having cold war among them, between them this time. So basically what is going on in India, that we are boycotting Chinese product, and what we are focusing on, we are focusing on to utilize or to use Indian goods. So that was only happened during the British rule, when Indian people started boycotting foreign goods and British products. They started burning British clothes and products, and they basically started focusing on the production of Indian goods. That movement was the Swadeshi movement, that was started during that time in opposition or to oppose the partition of Bengal. The result of this movement was that Britishers were forced to take back the partition of Bengal. Now, third is this movement was led by Mahatma Gandhi during 1930 to 1934 against the laws imposed by the British government. It started with the Dandi March on 12th March 1930 from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi, where Mahatma Gandhi and his 78 followers broke the salt law by producing salt without paying tax. So students, we will learn in previous further chapters of history that how Britishers were only having the monopoly of the manufacturing or selling of salt in India. In India, in our country only, they were having the monopoly. That means they were only having the right to produce salt or to sell salt in India. So against that monopoly, Mahatma Gandhi started the civil disobedience movement. The name of that movement was Civil Disobedience Movement. Now the fourth one is this movement was launched in 1942. It is near the independence of India. In response to Mahatma Gandhi's call for complete freedom from the British rule, during this movement, Gandhiji gave the slogan, "Do or Die." So this was the movement known as Quit India movements. That means in Hindi it is known as Bharat Chodo Andolan. So that is only, it is only known as Quit India movement. Now fifth one is this revolution initiated by, it is positive, this one, fifth one is for the positive cause. This revolution initiated by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan aimed to bring about a change in agricultural practices in India by the adoption of modern methods and technology such as high yields, variety seeds, tractors and pump sets. So students, for increasing the production in agriculture or for improving the agricultural production in India, M.S. Swaminathan, he is also known as father of the Green Revolution. M.S. Swaminathan started the revolution for developing or for improving the agricultural condition in India by adopting modern methods and technology, by introducing new machineries in agricultural field, by HY seeds, high yielding HYV seeds, by introducing high yielding variety seeds, by introducing machineries. Now that is the Green Revolution. This revolution was the Green Revolution. So the revolution that took for the improvement of the agriculture, that was Green Revolution. Now sixth is this revolution was launched by Dr. Verghese Kurian to make India one of the highest producers of milk and dairy product. So right now India is the second largest producer of milk. So this revolution took place for the more and more production of milk or dairy product in India. That revolution was started by Dr. Varghese Kurian, and it was known as the White Revolution. The color of milk is white, that is why it is known as the White Revolution. Now, seventh one is the revolution was primarily launched to increase the production of fish in small ponds and small water bodies. It led to the emergence of aquaculture as an important agricultural activity. It also aims for proper water management and provision of water for drinking and crop irrigation. So the revolution basically took place for the well utilization of water and to increase the production of fish, for the well utilization of water also, and for the production of increasing the production of fish. So this revolution is known as the Blue Revolution. Now let's have a look on more to know. Norman Ernest Borlaug was an American agronomist, that one who worked in the field of agriculture, and is regarded as the father of the Green Revolution overall for the world. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1970. Now, the third one is famous forts. So students, as all of us are studied enough about the Indian past, about the ancient period also and about the medieval period also, we have learned this also, that the rulers of our past, or our historians, the rulers, they used to build structures, monuments, and many buildings, or they did lots of construction work in the past. So what are the forts? Forts were basically the places where the Indian rulers, the Hindu rulers, used to live. India is a land of ancient forts and monuments which display its glorious past. The country boasts of some exotic forts that protected it from external enemy forces and offer royal and pleasant atmosphere. These were the fortification we have learned. Why they used to fortify? Fortification means to surround that particular area or the region to protect it from the enemy attack. These architectural masterpieces have become must-visit destination for tourists. Now, in the present scenario or during present time, these are the forts that were constructed by our past rulers, that are the famous must-visit destination or the famous tourist spot nowadays. So, name the forts described below using help box. Now, this is the fort that is located in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. It is one of the largest forts in India. The fort was constructed by Rao Jodha, the chief of Rathore clan, in 1460. It is situated on an elevated platform, that means on height, on hills, of around 400 feet and has thick wall boundaries. The fort has 7 gates. It has 7 gates, including Jaipal, which was built by Maharaja Man Singh to commemorate his victory over Jaipur and Bikaner armies. Inside the fort, there are several palaces known for their beautiful carvings and expensive courtyards, namely Moti Mahal, Phool Mahal, Shisha Mahal, Sileh Khan, and Daulat Khan. The Chamunda Devi temple and a museum are also a part of the fort. All these places are already located in that fort only. That means that area of that fort is very large. So this fort is Mehergarh Fort, that is in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. It is Mehergarh Fort. The spelling is Mehrangarh. Please write fort also. Mehergarh Fort. The second one is located in Hyderabad. This fort was built by the Kaktiya dynasty of Warangal. We have learned about Kaktiyas in class 7th. After the downfall of the dynasty, the fort was surrendered to the Bahmani kingdom. The Qutub Shahis took over its control after the decline of Bahmani kingdom until the fort was ruined in 1687 by Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor. The fort's minutely carved domes, pillars, entrances, mosques and temples are a delight to watch. Aurangzeb ruined this fort, but after that also its ruins are left, and that is only the place where people used to go to visit that place. That is the Golconda Fort, that is located in Hyderabad. Golconda Golconda Fort. The third one is, it is one of the majestic forts located in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. It is a hill fort, that means located on hill, surrounded by walls of sandstone, and is known for its military style architecture and aesthetically painted wall that spots a royal blue color in the carving. The fort consists of a defensive structure and two main palaces, namely Gujari Mahal and Man Mandir, built by Raja Man Singh Tomar. The name of that fort is Gwalior Fort. It is located in Gwalior only and known as Gwalior Fort. The fourth one is, it is one of the largest forts in India and also a World Heritage Site. The fort stands on a 180-meter high hill covering an area of about 700 acres near the bank of river Berak. The boundary has several gates, temples, and two prominent commemoration towers. Commemoration tower means in the memory of, whenever the rulers used to won any war, they built some structures in the memory of that war. That is only to commemorate, to enjoy, to remember that particular winning or the victory. It also houses a number of palaces such as Rana Kumbh Palace, Fateh Prakash Palace on the name of the rulers, Tower of Victory, and Rani Padmini's Palace, with significant features of the Rajput architecture. In 1303, the Sultan of Delhi, Alauddin Khilji, laid a siege to the fort after defeating the Rajput king. The legend of Rani Padmini is associated with this fort. We have learned about that story about Rani Padmavati. Now it is Chittor Fort. Now the fourth one is, this fort is situated on the northern plateau of Karnataka. Sultan Alauddin Bahman Shah of the Bahmani dynasty shifted his capital from Gulbarg to Bidar in 1427, where he built the fort. This fort is in Bidar, where he built the fort along with several Islamic structure. He was a Muslim ruler, that is why it is having the Islamic structure. The fort is constructed on the edge of a plateau. It has a haphazard rhombus-shaped layout and consists of 7 gates. One of its unusual feature is its water supply system called Kares. It is a water harnessing technology that originated in Persia. So this fort is known as Bidar Fort. All these are the famous tourist spot in India. Now sixth one is, this fort is situated on the bank of river Barak in Silchar, Assam. It was built during the Mughal era. Even in its ruins, the fort exudes a historical charm. It is in ruined condition, but after that also it is having that historical charm which attract a large number of tourists there. That is Badarpur Fort, located in Assam. Now let's have a look on more to know. The famous Kohinoor diamond was a part of the royal throne of Shah Jahan, located in the Diwani Khas in the Red Fort. All of us are knowing that we were having a Kohinoor diamond that was, we can say that was in the royal throne of Shah Jahan, where he used to sit, and it was located in Diwani Khas, Diwani Am and Diwani Khas, we are knowing it is in Red Fort. The diamond that was mined from the Golconda state of Andhra Pradesh was later stolen by Nadir Shah. He attacked in India and is a part of the Royal Crown collecting of England at present. Nowadays that Kohinoor diamond is with England. They are having that Kohinoor diamond. Now our fourth one is World Heritage Site. So before starting this chapter, we have to know that what is a World Heritage Site. So students, World Heritage Site is a landmark or area that is selected by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO, UNESCO work in the field for protecting all these historical monuments or all these places. It work for the preservation of these places so that it can live long lasting, for having cultural, historical, scientific or other form of significance. Any place that is having any importance, like if that place is historically important, if that place is scientifically important, what is the work of UNESCO? To preserve it, to work in the field to preserve that particular monument or that particular place. That is only known as World Heritage Site. So, for example, it can be historical structure also, ancient ruins also, buildings also, cities also, desert, forest, island, lakes and monuments. So, all these places are marked by the world, or we can say by UNESCO, as World Heritage Site. So, basically, what is the work of these sites? What is the work of UNESCO? It's whatever World Heritage Sites are there, they serve as evidence of our intellectual history on the planet. A World Heritage Site may signify a remarkable accomplishment of humanity, or it might be a place of natural beauty. These sites are demarcated by UNESCO as protected zone. They are protected. Now, let's have a look what is UNESCO. So, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization is a specialized agency of the United Nations. This is a specialized agency of United Nations aimed at contributing to the building of peace. What is its aim? For the building of peace, the eradication of poverty, sustainable development and intercultural dialogue through education, the sciences and cultural communication and information. So that is UNESCO. Where is the headquarter of UNESCO? The headquarter of UNESCO is in Paris or France. It was founded, when it was formed on 4th November 1945. You can write it. It was formed on 4th November 1945. Its headquarters is in Paris, France. Presently, the head of the UNESCO, that is the Director General, Audrey Azoulay. How many member countries are there? 193 countries. Now, let's start the chapter. A landmark or an area selected by United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO, as having cultural, historical and scientific significance is known as a World Heritage Site. World Heritage Sites are legally protected by international treaties, whole treaties. Maybe we can say that funds are raised by different countries to protect or to build or to reconstruct that particular site. As of 2018, there are 37 World Heritage Sites in India. As of 2018, there were 37 World Heritage Sites, and in 2019, there are 38 sites, World Heritage Sites in India. As of July 2019, there are a total of 1,121 World Heritage Sites in all over the world. So, write the names and the state of the following World Heritage Sites. First, we are having the picture of Humayun's tomb. And all of you are knowing, we have already learned about Humayun's tomb in class 7th. This tomb was constructed by his wife, Humayun's wife, after his death. This is located in New Delhi. The second one is Sanchi Stupa. All of us are knowing that this is the famous monument belong to Buddhism or Buddhist, and this is in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Next is the Vitthal Swami temple. This also we have learned about Hampi, Karnataka. We have learned about various temples that were constructed in Hampi, like Virupaksha temple, Vitthal Swami temple. So this is the picture of the Vitthal Swami temple that is located in Hampi and the state is Karnataka. Now let's have a look on the fourth one. It is Elephanta Cave. Fourth one is the picture of the Elephanta Caves, and these caves are located in Maharashtra. The fifth picture is of Shore Temple. We have learned about Shore Temple in class 6th only. This is the famous, we can say that this is the famous temple that was constructed during the ancient period only by the ancient rulers, and it is located in South India. The place is Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu. The third one is Buland Darwaza. Buland Darwaza was built by Akbar in Fatehpur Sikri, Uttar Pradesh. Buland Darwaza was also built by Akbar to commemorate his victory over Gujarat when Akbar won Gujarat rulers. So for that only he constructed Buland Darwaza to commemorate, to enjoy, or to remember his victory. That is Buland Darwaza, constructed in Fatehpur Sikri, Uttar Pradesh. Now, seventh one is, as you can see, it is also a World Heritage Site, Valley of Flowers National Park. There are many national parks of India that are being considered as World Heritage Site by UNESCO, like the Sundarban Parks and Manas Wildlife Sanctuary, Ranthambore Park National Park. All these are the Ranthambore, Kaziranga National Park. All these are the national parks that are being considered as World Heritage Site by UNESCO. So this is Valley of Flowers National Park. It is located in Uttarakhand. Next is the eighth one is the Rani Ki Vav. It is also known as the Queen's Step Well. Now Rani Ki Vav, this is a Bauli. What are Baulis? So Baulis are basically the step well, that are wells or ponds in which the water is reached by descending a set of steps to the water level. Let's see this picture. This is only the Bauli, and like that only the Rani Ki Vav is also there. The Rani Ki Vav was constructed by the Solanki rulers. The queen built this famous structure was built by the queen, and like this only stairs are there to go to the, and water level is very down. So this is only known as Baulis, and this Rani Ki Vav is a famous World Heritage Site that is located in Patan, Gujarat. The place is Patan, the state is Gujarat. Students, the older 100 rupee note that was earlier, RBI was having or used this Rani Ki Vav on that 100 rupee note. We can see this structure on older 100 rupee note. Now the next one is, ninth one is the Jantar Mantar. We are knowing that who constructed Jantar Mantar, Savai Raja Jai Singh, and it is located in Rajasthan, Jaipur, Rajasthan. Now the 10th one is the Nalanda University. All of us are knowing that the Nalanda University, now again this university is being started by the government for the educational purposes. The Nalanda University or the Nalanda Mahavira University is located in Bihar. This famous university was constructed by the Gupta ruler Kumar Gupta, who was the son of Chandragupta II. Now 11th one is Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus. It is earlier known as Victoria Terminus. It is located in Maharashtra. 12th one is Bhimbatka. We have learned in class 6th about Bhimbatka that it is a famous Paleolithic site. It is famous for its rock shelters. It is a rock shelter and famous for its rock paintings. Bhimbatka is located in Madhya Pradesh. Now let's have a look on more to know. As of 2018, there are 1098 World Heritage Sites located in 167 state parties. Now, they consist of 845 cultural, 209 natural and 38 mixed properties. Now, as of July 2019, there are 1121 World Heritage Sites. Now, let's have a look on the 5th chapter, that is famous entrepreneurs. So, students, all of us are knowing that entrepreneurs means the person. These entrepreneurs are the people or the person or individual who creates a new business. The person who start a new business, they become entrepreneur, bearing most of the risk and enjoying most of the rewards. They were having various risks whenever we used to start any business. So we are having lots of risk in that business, and if that business goes well, then we enjoy most of the rewards also. The entrepreneur is commonly seen as an innovator. The people, the person, those who are having innovations, innovative ideas, a source of new ideas, goods, services, and business or procedures. So, India. So, entrepreneurs are very necessary or are playing very important role in the economy of any country. India's economy has been growing rapidly for the past few decades, thereby producing numerous business persons. Entrepreneurs are basically the business persons. They are famous for building successful business and influencing the world with their ideas. We can see various businessmen around us also, various people doing different kinds of business around us, but there are some businessmen, those who have achieved name or lots of fame all around the world. Their ideas, their products are being used all over the world. So there are some entrepreneurs that belongs to India and they inspire us to grow and achieve success. So let's have a look on the chapter. What you have to do is match the Indian entrepreneurs with their enterprises. We have to mark or match the entrepreneurs with their enterprises, with their organizations or with their business. So the first one, I will go by the pictures. The first one is, as you can see, it is he is Lakshmi Nivas Mittal. This is a picture of Lakshmi Nivas Mittal, and Lakshmi Nivas Mittal belongs to Arcelor Mittal. Lakshmi Nivas Mittal belongs to Arcelor Mittal. The next picture is of Dhirubhai Ambani. All of you are knowing about the name Ambanis. So Dhirubhai Ambani, as you can see, Dhirubhai Ambani is related to Reliance Industries Limited. Reliance works for different products, or it provides us different products. Now, the next name on the right hand side is Brij Mohan Lal Munjal. Brij Mohan Lal Munjal is the founder of Hero Motocorp. Hero Motocorp, that is the bikes, motorbikes. Now, next is Sunil Mittal. Sunil Mittal is the founder of Bharti Enterprises. Now, let's have a look here. N.R. Narayan Murthy. N.R. Narayan Murthy is the founder of Infosys Limited, the famous tech company in our India. N.R. Narayan Murthy is the founder of Infosys Limited. The next picture is of Dr. Kiran Majumdar Shaw, and Dr. Kiran Majumdar Shaw is related to Biocon Limited. Now, the next one, right hand side, Azim Premji, and Azim Premji was the founder of Wipro Limited. Next is Sabina Chopra, and Sabina Chopra is basically the founder of Yatra Online Private Limited. So these are the enterprises that are being run by all these entrepreneurs. Now students, here you have to match it. So basically just write the letters that I have written. I've explained you this on 2 pages. Assemble it together and write it properly. So I think this unit is now over. We have completed the first unit of GK, and that unit is composed of 5 chapters. So we have completed these 5 chapters. Now what is your work? You have to do these exercises in your book with the help of pencil. Students, please don't use pen. Write it with pencil so that if there will be any mistake, you can correct it. Write it with pencil and fill your books up to chapter 5. I recommend you to learn these exercises also, so that it will be helpful for us. In your free time, you can go through these books and just complete your exercises. Let's have a look on more to know. A unicorn is a privately held startup company with a current valuation of $1 billion or more. There are many more enterprises like Flipkart, Ola Cabs, Paytm, Swiggy are some examples of such unicorn companies in India. Now students, that is all for today. I hope that all of you will fill your book exercises. Please watch the video properly. It will be very helpful for you all. Thank you students.